Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mayor Donald Hughes. Mayor Rogelio Margaret Morales.
Present.
Councilmember Mitch Lindemann.
Here.
Councilmember Dania Acosta.
Present.
Councilmember Ray Shelton. Councilmember Michael Montenegro.
Present.
Councilmember Jose Picalba.
Here.
City Manager Ana Urquijo.
Present.
City Attorney Dennis Fitzgibbons. City Treasurer Luis Pedrosa.
Present.
Thank you. And for the record, Mayor Pro Tempore Morales, Mayor Donald Hughes is excused, and council member is also. I am trying to they can connect telephonically by Zoom. So we will know in a few minutes. Councilmember Shelton, yes.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is persons wishing to address the council in writing or verbally on any item not on the agenda. Do we have requests, Ms. Wright?
As well as Mr.
Caller?
That's good evening. Back again.
Just state your name and address for the record.
Leslie Pollard, 2200 Ninth Street, Douglas, Arizona. Good evening, everybody, councilman, fellow residents. All right, but anyway, I submitted my first proposal for a name change for a facility in honor of one of our residents, Mr. Sergeant First Class Ruben Behar. I was forwarded an official guideline for the city of Douglas, which I wrote out, and this is it. I would like to read it to you so you can have a better understanding of what I'm trying to do here. This was all followed through the guidelines of what I was saying. Okay, so something like this. Sergeant First Class Ruben Behar was a role model, PIW, MIA for 70 years. His contributions to the city of Douglas, he enlisted in the United States, who ultimately sacrificed his life and was held as a POW. By naming a park, facility, playground, etc., in the name of his honor, he will always be remembered as a person whose life was saved, his life was sacrificed so that we all may have our freedom. Henceforth, many generations will know of this hero and what he did for our country as well for our city of Douglas. We must remember and never forget our local hero, Sergeant First Class Behar, for his bravery, honor, and sacrifice of representing the city of Douglas. More importantly, by naming some type of memorial in his honor, our future generations will always have the honor to honor their own local hero, Sergeant First Class Behar. His life will always live on with his own flag that is visible by everyone who reads and visits Sergeant First Class Behar's proposed memorial. As America always honors its American hero, Sergeant Audie Murphy, we as Douglas citizens and city leaders should do the same for our own local American hero, Sergeant First Class Behar, who is now at home accounted for and resting with his parents who suffered many, many years, not knowing what happened to their precious loved one, their own hero, Sergeant Behar. So on behalf of the Behar family, surviving siblings, extended family and relatives, and myself, I hope that you, as our elected official and leaders of the city of Douglas, pass this resolution in the honor of Sergeant Bayard. As an Army veteran myself, we have a very meaningful saying, and it goes, "Old soldiers never die, we just fade away." So we must never let the legacy of Sergeant Bayard fade away, especially for future generations for the city of Douglas. Once again, on behalf of the Bayard family, as well as myself, I want to thank our city council, mayor, and constituents of Douglas for their time and understanding of this very important matter and proposed resolution. Thank you. P.S. If passed, would love to have this dedication on Memorial Day 2022. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. I do have one call to the public. We received an email from Michael Sarami, and I'd like to read that. He says, the Air Force recently had a proposal that affects the livelihood of people that live in Douglas and nearby areas, and almost nobody outside the council members and other prominent city persons knew about it. I don't recall any publication of the Air Force's proposal in any news outlet that people of Douglas regularly give attention to. The only newspaper I'm aware of that published within our affected area is a small newspaper in Hidalgo County, New Mexico, which represents an extremely tiny proportion of the affected population. Not to mention, you have to see that newspaper, and likely people in Douglas don't even know it exists. I did some substantial research regarding this proposal and want to provide information that was not really made public, at least not in a clear sense. For one, Arizona has a vast amount of low altitude supersonic training airspace, including about 10 million acres of sub 10,000 feet above ground supersonic airspace, and 6 million acres of that is in civilian overhead areas called military operational areas, or MOAs, already. Additionally, the military has a number of ranges nearby, some managed by the Air Force, some by other divisions of the military, and the option to collaborate with those ranges, which I think would stimulate a real combat environment better than flying over civilians, was not even brought up as an option. Also, the so-called exclusion zone under which downtown Douglas falls is misleading, since the proposal still allows for sonic booms as low as 9,000 feet above ground in downtown Douglas. So the environmental impact is not excluded. My request is to reach out to the Air Force and see if they can redo the public scoping for our area, as well as disclose the information above, so the public can get a clear sense of the necessity as well as the impact. And that's the Michael summary. Do we have an address for him? Did you provide anything?
We do not have an address for him, Mayor Pro Tempore Morales. What he said in his email is that he's a local resident, but he is having difficulty attending in person.
Thank you.
I'm here.
Thank you. For the record, Mayor Pro Tempore Morales, Councilmember Shelton is connected telephonically, as well as the city attorney, Dennis Fitzgibbon.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is presentation, reading of proclamation for Fair Housing Month. Proclamation, whereas the Civil Rights Act of 1968, Commonwealth Housing Act, and the Fair Housing Amendments Act of 1988 prohibits discrimination in the sale, rental, leasing, and financing of housing or land or in the appropriate services on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, disability, familiar status, or national origin. And whereas the policy of the United States is to provide within constitutional limitations fair housing throughout the United States through the 1968 and 1988 Federal Fair Housing Acts, which declare that it is national policy to ensure equal opportunities in housing, and whereas April has traditionally been designated as Fair Housing Month in the United States. Therefore, that be it resolved that I, Margaret Morales, Mayor Pro Tem, and on behalf of the council, do hereby proclaim April 2022 as Fair Housing Month, and urge all citizens of this community to comply with and lend their support, not just the letter, but to the spirit of fair housing and opportunity for all. And with this, I have here unto land and house bill in the city of Douglas to be affixed this first day of April 2022. If Ms. Gonzalez would come up. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is item 6, presentation discussion pertaining to community crosswalk, a community art project, crosswalk art, Brian's Way.
Good evening, and thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. We were approached last month by an artist representative, Adriana B. Harris, about locating a crosswalk artwork in Douglas. Consideration also Agua Prieta, but we decided that we really wanted to see a project like this in Douglas. We just needed to talk with you about where to locate it. The project is granted to the amount of $2,000 for materials and for the artist's time. And they're proposing to do something colorful. And it may pertain to history or other design themes that are part of Douglas's history, maybe possibly Agua Prieta or just our region. Here are a few examples of the scope of the artwork. Get this to place. Here we go. So it's meant to be colorful, attractive, and also to remind drivers that there's something happening here where people are going to be crossing. It draws their attention. And it's one of the things that as we looked at these designs that Amy Harris provided us, we had discussions about the kind of artwork that we might see. And the ideas that maybe the community might have if they're putting their voice to a project like this. Sometimes it's just another splashing color. But we talked about pedestrian safety. We talked about wayfinding. We talked about things that we've heard in more recent times, given the tragedy that happened back in February, particularly about getting kids to school safely, and especially if, by foot, and by bike. And so we wanted to see if the possibility for expanding the scope was there, and it sounds like the artist is interested, but she's just funded for one crosswalk. But we thought that we could possibly, with the council's approval, talk about maybe making this something of a community building project that has a larger scope to include several crosswalks between the border wall, the pedestrians coming out, and particularly Rainbow Middle School to start, but just to sort of provide a connection, a visual connection of wayfinding for children and for adults to go to these places. Came up with a name because of the tragedy in February. We might call it Brian's Way. Policy and in the general plan to support these kinds of improvements, to improve connectivity for non-motorized transportation, bikes, for feet, kids, adults. And that's where we're sort of leaning on this to possibly propose this as a program. We're looking at potential alignments. This is just very draft, just thinking about Rayburn Middle School and the border and the kind of connections that might work best. The ones where the traffic might be the least. Where there may also be opportunities for businesses to, in close proximity to possibly sponsor some of these projects. So these are just a few things that we're putting up for visual contemplation. And I'm happy to answer any questions or any discussion or whatever you'd like to do from here.
Do you have any questions for Mr. Osborne?
So this is a presentation only today, and so we can take questions or discuss the item. We won't be receiving any direction or decision, but we will come back to council on the 27th of the work session with an item for that direction. That gives you plenty of time to consider the concept, and I do want to give credit to Mr. Osborne for coming up with the expanded view of this concept during our brainstorming session and added the consideration of Brian's video. So wayfinding, as he explains, and I think it's a wonderful concept to consider. So we're open to any questions, areas that you may want us to research further before we bring it back for direction. So thank you.
Right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Next item, number 7, discussion decision on approvals. Item A is motion to reconsider ordinance number 22-1144. The mayor and council of the city of Douglas, Cochise County, Arizona, shall discuss and possibly take action on a motion to reconsider the first reading of ordinance number 22-1144, the proposed rezoning 5 parcels of land comprising lots 14 through 26, the north half block 30 of the Foothills addition to the city of Douglas, numbered 410-321-19B, 410-321-20B, 410-321-20C, 410-321-20D, 410-321-21, located in Douglas, Arizona, from single-family resident 8,000 SFR 8 to single-family residential 6,000 SFR 6, and amending the official zoning district map.
Mayor Pro
Mr.
Tem,
Tracy.
members of the council, I'd like to first just explain the item here. Time has been set aside to allow for reconsideration of the first reading of ordinance number 22-1144. So as background, and as you recall, during the mayor and council meeting of March 14, the first reading of ordinance number 22-1144 failed by a vote of 4-0. So I wanted to explain the time being set aside today. To clarify also that during the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of March 8th, the agenda item regarding this rezoning defined under this ordinance also failed, but also with a suggestion by the Planning and Zoning Commission at that meeting to allow for partial rezoning of only a portion of the recommended parcels to address only the homes already constructed within those parcels. So I want to just clarify and explain that this item is strictly for reconsideration of that item, and possible actions for reconsideration of the first reading could come in different ways. There could be no motion to even bring this back for reconsideration. If there is no motion, the mayor and council cannot discuss or take action on ordinance number 22-1144 under item 7B today. If a motion is made and seconded and fails, the mayor and council cannot discuss or take action on ordinance number 22-1144 under item 7B today. If the mayor and council vote in favor of the reconsideration, discussion and decision for ordinance number 22-1144 can follow under the separate agenda item, and staff can present alternatives that can be considered by mayor and council. So I just want to make sure that per section, that it's clarified also that per section 1206 of our zoning regulations, city staff is unable to present an amended zoning ordinance related to these properties for at least 1 year if there is no motion or the motion fails.
Does Mr. Pitts Givens have to address this issue? This
It's
item?
available for questions.
Okay. I'm going to entertain a motion to approve the reconsideration of ordinance number 22-1144.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Grijalva,
I move that the mayor and council reconsider ordinance number 22-1144.
is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Grijalva, a second by Councilmember Montenegro. Any discussion? Anyone else? No?
Yes. So, yes, so I understand and I apologize for not being here the previous meeting when this was discussed. But I understand that there's houses that are already built on some of these lots. Is that 14 through 26, or is there, which of these lots have already been developed in that smaller square footage?
Mr. Osborne.
Well, I was going to, I can answer that question. The lots that have already been developed, the north half of block 30 of the Foothills Edition are lots 14 through 21. The city lots are 22 through 26. And the parcel number for that, I believe, ends with 121.
And from what I understand is that the recommendation was not to change, recommendation, I'm sorry, from the Planning and Zoning Commission, is that correct? Correct. Was not to change the vacant lots to the 8,000 square feet, is that correct?
The Planning Commission.
And
For discussion, I believe the March 14th meeting, the consideration of other alternatives to separate out lots 22 through 26, the city's parcel, from the amendment, that the existing development could rezone to single family 6 instead of single family 8, whereas the city property was remaining as it is today, single family 8.
what are the repercussions if those homeowners that have the lots in the wrong zone? Their lots are small. Like, what happens to them?
And it's in the dimension. Width is where they're, but the lot sizes of those lots is close to 10. So their overall lot meets the required.
If I may interrupt, Mayor Pro Tem. Mr. Fitzgibbon?
Yes,
Thank you. So I know that, going back to the questions on the reconsideration of this ordinance, the initial intent here it would be to reconsider the ordinance, taking that vote if we have a motion in a second, not going to discussion specific item, and the questions or answers can be asked on 7D. Is that correct?
yes, Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember Acosta. These are all very, very good questions, but I think they only come up if we get to item B on the agenda. So if there's discussion you have about the motion to reconsider, we can entertain those now. If the motion is a positive vote, then all the items you're going into right now can be discussed under item B.
Mr. Fitzgerald, so if there's members of the public here that want to address this again, have questions, or want to speak to this issue, we'd have to wait till the next item if this motion passes.
Well, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, clearly they can address the council about the issue of the motion to reconsider and ask you not to reconsider. But if they really want to talk to the substance of the ordinance, it would be better for them to wait and see if we even get to item 7B, because if we don't get to item 7B, then they probably don't have any comments to make.
And Mayor Temper, I do have 2 requests for to speak on 17.
7A.
I can give those to you already.
Thank you. Mr. David Stewart.
I'll wait and see if it's passed.
Okay. Mr. Carlos Peran.
I think my discussion will fall under the purview of 7B, more so than 7A, so back to Will.
Okay.
And then for 17.
Okay. And Mr. Frank Ambriz.
Okay.
Then may I entertain a roll call for this item?
Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor by Councilmember Jose Quijada and a second by Councilmember Montenegro. Councilmember Lindemann,
No.
Councilmember Acosta,
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton,
No,
Councilmember Valdez.
no,
Thank you, Mr. Shelton. Councilmember
okay, I
Valdez.
couldn't hear, I can't, you know what, I can't hear very well, so, on this phone, so,
Councilmember Valdenegro,
No.
Councilmember Grijalva.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tempore Morales,
No. Motion fails. 42. All right. So next item is item B, so we will not be doing item B since motion on item A failed. Yes.
Yes, my name is Frank Ruiz, and I live at 2154 12th Street. And I'm the chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission. We did submit a denial for the whole lots from the small houses to the end. It was a denial, not breaking it down. That was our recommendation to the city council. Then I did some more research recently. I found that one of the houses is submitted with federal assistance, federal, what do you call it? Farmers Home Administration. They're supporting that loan. And according to the map that I found, it's 50 feet plus 25 feet. So that makes it a sub or a standard lot in there. So somebody changed that to include only 50 feet of that lot, only to put that out so that he can get another extra house in the area. Then there is other issues that were brought up to me about another house on Monte Vista and 15th Street that is a substandard lot. So what are we doing with our zoning regulations? Are we gonna find them? We need to abide by it or throw them away. Put a sunset and get rid of them and let everybody do whatever they want to if we're not going to enforce those regulations. You can see that house on 15th Street and Monte Vista. I was surprised to see it. The property owner adjacent to it brought it to my attention. They're missing about 16 feet to make a conforming lot. Very easy to see. I don't know what's going on, why they're doing that. And I have evidence where it was submitted to the Farmers Home Administration. 75-foot lot, that's what they're financing. And there's a mortgage. And what we need to do is notify all those people that have that substandard houses. So they come to the meetings, otherwise there's some here to see what's going to happen. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ambriz. Anyone else would like to make a comment?
If I may, just real quick, Mayor Pro Tempore Morales and council members, Mr. Fitzgibbon, since we are not addressing item 7B, is it appropriate for us to allow?
Right, I don't, Mayor Pro Tem, I don't think we should take any more comments because we're not going to entertain ordinance number 22-1144. So I know people held their comments if the council was going to get to item 7B, but we didn't get to item 7B. So I don't really think it's appropriate to take any comments at this time.
All right, thank you, Mr.
So that means I should sit down? Basically concerning with what Mr. Ambriz talked about, and I can make it very.
Unfortunately,
You can't.
according to the attorney, no, we
Okay,
can't.
that's fine.
All right, I'm sorry, thank you. Next item on the agenda is 7C. Second reading of ordinance number 22-1143, an ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of Douglas, Cochise County, Arizona, adopting 2022 amendments to Article 5 of the zoning regulations by reference to amend section 510.1, section 510.2, section 510.7, section 510.8, and section 513.1, renumber and amend section 513.2, section 513.3, and section 513.4, and add section 513.2, permitted uses, and section 513.3, property development standards of the city of Douglas zoning regulations, providing for severability and establishing an effective date thereof. Are you going to present?
Yes, I'll go ahead and open it. Yes, thank you. So this comes back, as you recall, we came to council on March 10th or March 8th to actually recommend some presentations, some amendments to the zoning code. On March 10th, unanimously this passed as a first reading. And on March 14th was tabled unanimously after concern from public testimony about application of fire suppression requirements. And so staff has gone back to discuss with some of the members of the public some of the fire code use provisions to explain the provisions and how they're used. And it's primarily the discussion was that the fire code is applied on a per use basis, and the case that every permit would require is dependent on various variables. So that discussion was held to attempt to clarify the use cases and I think the suggested concerns. So we bring this back for the attempt for a second reading as well. And we have our planner here to answer any questions. I would like to take any presentation or guidance.
So behind all the numbers, we're looking at the heavy industry zoning district, allowing for development, redevelopment, construction on parcels that are smaller than 5 acres in size through conditional use permitting for those uses that are considered principally permitted, and through a planned development process if they're conditional use permitted on parcels larger than 5 acres. Right now, we have a significant number of parcels that are zone heavy industry, but they're less than 5 acres, and we can't allow them to be built. We can't allow them to be used. And so that portion of the code amendment will allow for heavy industry uses that are allowed in our code to be on properties where they're already zoned heavy industry. The other portion is a significant improvement as far as zoning code, and that is to include uses in our historic preservation overlay zoning district. Whereas right now, it only says to allow those things that are permitted by underlying zoning. What it doesn't say is that our general commercial zone, which covers a large amount of the overlay zoning district for historic preservation, is that general commercial doesn't allow offices, doesn't allow craft scale manufacturing, things like making saddles, making bicycles, microbrewery, microdistilling. Doesn't allow for apartments. There are a lot of other restrictions that are tied into the development standards of general commercial that result in more of a suburban style mall development. And that's not really appropriate for our historic preservation overlay zoning district, which talks about preserving buildings, getting adaptive reuse. And we have all sorts of policies in our general plan to support the changes that we're bringing forward. And it was unanimously approved by our Planning and Zoning Commission on March 8th. There's a significant amount of support from the public. And so we're really looking forward to this passing because we have a number of business licenses that are hinging on these amendments. There are people who want to do business, but their underlying zoning does not allow for them. One of the examples is the YMCA Depot building. They are historic preservation overlay district, and rightly so because of the building, but it's in a light industry zone. And so light industry doesn't allow for retail. It's not associated with a light industrial use. Doesn't allow for restaurants, doesn't allow for cafes, doesn't allow for any of the uses that you would associate with an historic building in a wonderful community that's filled with historic buildings, but isn't yet filled with people. We want to bring people back to downtown. We want to bring businesses to downtown. We want to have places to shop, eat, dine, all of that stuff. And these amendments are going to, both of these amendments are going to help create jobs, bring in businesses, and support the revitalization of Douglas. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Let me entertain a motion first.
Mayor,
Lindemann?
I move that the mayor and council approve the second reading of ordinance number 22-1143 and place it on third reading by number of title only.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Lindemann and a second by Councilmember Acosta. Any discussion? Mr. Lindemann?
Mr. Osborne, I thank you very much for bringing this. This is visionary. We need to have a redevelopment happen downtown. And of course, following that, like you mentioned, all of our codes and our ordinances have to be more in line with themselves. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Ms. Acosta?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Osborne. I agree with Mr. Lindemann on all the different uses that this would allow for historic buildings. One of the things that I would like to see, and I don't know if this pertains, well, it pertains to the district, but maybe something to try to prevent investors from coming in and just buying up these buildings and sitting on them. Some ordinance or something to try to prevent that within that district, because obviously it's happening, and that's not going to bring our downtown revitalization plan to fruition if we just have people coming in, buying them, hoping to make a profit and selling it later and just keeping it vacant for years and deteriorating. So I'd like to see something that would enforce or try to prevent that from occurring in that district.
It sounds like you're suggesting possibly a demolition by neglect ordinance.
You're speaking terms.
So I'm giving you a preview of coming attractions, because this is one of the things that I've also contemplated as I look at our buildings, but we also, I think, have to consider if we have the opportunity to participate in some of the rehabilitation or restoration of these buildings as well. So a bit of stick and also a bit of carrot. But it's definitely something that I would be interested in following up with council guidance. But I think that for tonight, and hopefully we
Yes,
can move forward on these, on getting these uses in the building.
right. The uses are great. They're versatile and we need these things in our historic downtown area if we want to revitalize it. You know, to make it a entertainment district, but also keeping that in mind, you know, like I said, just to try to keep and protect from people just sitting on buildings and letting them deteriorate.
We'd be happy to add that to our work program in the past.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. McCaffrey.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Mr. Osborne, this is the definition of being business friendly. And we're still going to control who comes down here. If it's appropriate, if it's inappropriate, but we have to leave those options open, especially if people want to stay in apartments downtown, see the foot traffic. And when you see people walking around, walking the blocks around during the day, you want to stop by and be a part of that. So the more business friendly we can be, the more our city is going to thrive. So I want to thank you for your presentation and the thought that you put behind this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne.
Mr. Osborne, before you came on board with the City of Douglas, we had Mr. Gardner, and he was looking into providing fines to the landowners downtown. And since he left, I guess that went outside, wayside, because he was looking at California somehow started enforcing fines on people that own the property. That were maintaining the property, weren't ready to sell it or anything like that. So if you could reach out to Mr. Gardner, see where exactly he was at.
We have, I think we have had a number of enforcement actions in downtown relating to building repair issues or maintenance. And so we've been somewhat active on that, and it's something, again, where we have owners who aren't necessarily committed to the idea of improving the buildings or even maintaining them, is that we can look at enforcement as one of our options, and that will include fines. So the Brophy building is one of our more recent examples where we've done just that. But if you want to see more of the same, we are very responsive to that.
Thank you.
Thank you. No further discussion. Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Morales, if I may, I do have quite a few
Oh, you have some.
public participation on this specific item, 7C.
Okay. Thank you. Now, Lopez.
Mayor Pro Tem, Council, my name is Anna Lopez, I live at 1129 East 9th Street. I actually had a whole argument voting for this historical preservation overlay zoning. I am happy to hear that all of you are pro-business, and thank you so much. I am pro-business, I'm also an entrepreneur and also an investor. I currently bought the property on 1015/1017 G Avenue, used to be the former Ortega Sports World. Currently the Nancy Nails is one of my tenants, but I bought it with the intent of developing the upper level. And I don't know if any of you are aware that there is a second floor on that building. With 19 rooms, it used to be called the Bellevue Hotel back in the early 1900s. And my goal with this property was to redevelop it and recreate its history. And that's something that my husband and I are very passionate about, is recreating and revitalizing the history of our beautiful community. I mean, I've lived here 15 years, and in the 15 years, it started with a little house at 925 D Avenue in front of the 10th Street Park. And it turned into all three corners of that 10th Street Park that my husband has actually laid his hands on and helped revitalize that little area, and then later the gas did. So we want to continue to revitalize the downtown area and be a part of that, be a part of our community and still be investing here. So I hope that you do pass this. It would really open up the doors for all of us business owners, all of us entrepreneurs, everyone that has ideas. And we all want to see Douglas grow and prosper. And keep our dollars here. There are so many locals here that have so much talent that can contribute to our community. And I hope that we can leverage that. And by passing this, I think we can really help see our town grow. I would really love to see it be a busy and see people walking down the streets and being busy on a Tuesday and it filled with people walking into our shops, our restaurants. Councilmember Akossi mentioned the entertainment district. I know that's not specifically on the agenda tonight, but that is very important as well that we pass that. In my building, at some point, I wish I could have a liquor license, either it's a wine and beer license or a Series 6 license, but I would never be able to do that because there's a church within 300 feet of my establishment. So I think that's going to be very important, and that ties into this historical preservation overlay zoning. It's hard to say all of that. So I just wanted to thank all of you and hope that you do pass this line item. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wells. Ms. Federico, Ida Federico.
Good afternoon, my name is Ida Federico, I reside at 1815 East Fifth Street, to the east. I support exactly what Anel, and I'd like to extend it. We need to revitalize it. G Avenue is not dying and will not die, but it has so much potential, and we need to bring in all the resources that we can, whether it is bike shops or it is the breweries. I know that in the past, as you said, there was already a hotel on top. So that is not so new to Douglas because many of the apartments were apartments in the past. But by creating the opportunity for other people to invest in our community, and I'm not talking just the local merchants, but other people wanting to invest their homes. Because once Douglas is a vibrant community, it's not just G Avenue that's going to prosper. It's going to be the whole community. So I hope that you do vote on this because it is awesome.
Thank you. Mr. Braverman.
Thank you for your time and all you excuse my back. I've been down here 1 year. I've been coming down here my whole life. This is the best city in America. I've worked in all 50 states and 40 countries. We got the safest place, the best weather, and the coolest people. These people working here, different people, they're city employees. This is the most accessible city government I've ever seen. I bought the building 1101G, has the little historical pictures on it. It has an apartment in it. If anybody needs a place to stay. It's all about this. This is your time. Your time. This is the biggest thing to happen down here in 20 years. It'll be bigger than the smelter. We've got a bi-national cultural experience that no one else has in the county. I'm making museums, I do the art and music support with the Last Supper Museum. I have the biggest Last Supper collection of art in the world. We passed this wonderful man's guidance, new city planner, new city manager, new cultural development officer. We're passing this. This is the best, easiest thing in the world, and everything else will come. Just like that stupid Field of Dreams movie, no offense. Baseball fans. Think about it. This is an easy one. It's free. And then I can go walking up and down the street selling these buildings and get people excited. I want residences on top of my building. Nutty stuff in the bottom that makes people want to come walking up and down the street. And it's a nice place to live upstairs. I was so excited about this lady and her husband here. That's one of the reasons I bought the building, so I can go eat at a restaurant every day. We kind of messed that up. get the new place together. So just, again, it's really accessible. Government people, that's the greatest thing. All the people I know in the world, they can't believe it. So please have mercy on us. And also, I bought my building outright. Are you guys talking about me? I bought the building outright. No carrying it, no financing, just I'm buying this thing. And we're trying to fix it up now. It's a little bit nutty in there. All these buildings are here, it's a real shame. We don't want to demolish them. We want to preserve them in any way we can, but the demolishing threat is a good idea. If we pass this thing, I'm gonna go buy that Brophy building, I think, and make it into something, who knows? I got like 8 museums I could do. So I gotta go home. So fashion is on that, isn't it? You know? All right, so please consider it, and thank you very much for your time today. You all for being so welcoming.
Thank you. That's a hard act to follow.
Mayor Pro Tem, city council members, residents, area residents. I'm going to be pretty brief here, but I hope I can make a point. I attended the Parada del Sol in Scottsdale in February of this year. I was drawn to a booth of Indian jewelry. I like a jewelry. There was a necklace there, like something I'd never seen before. It was made from pieces, kind of like a jewelry, like a charm bracelet with multiple strands. I approached the little shop there, and the Navajo lady behind the counter, her name is Vivian, said she was the maker of it. Well, by this time I have it in my hands because there's a lot of people now. I was fascinated by it. I'd never seen anything quite like it. It was very unusual. She explained to me that one day she was feeling very creative, but she didn't have supplies that she needed. What she did have was a bunch of broken pieces. She had a silver bead from an old necklace of her mother's. She had a carved rose ornament that was on one of her necklaces as a young child. There was pieces of abalone, coral, turquoise, and broken earrings, and so on. In her arrangement of the broken pieces for that necklace, this evolved, okay? This is what I'm wearing. What my challenge is I'm putting out an announcement that we need for Douglas to gather its broken pieces and assemble them into something very unique and beautiful, because there's nothing, nowhere like what we have. The zoning change will be the first step towards something that will revive our downtown, and we have got to do something, because what we're doing right now ain't working. Sadly, in the meantime, we have some outsiders, as my grandmother would call them. I've adopted Edie. He's not an outsider. But they're coming into our town and they're leveraging with their money, our history. The current owner of the Brophy building, as we're bringing him up, purchased that building at least 15 years ago, and has done zero zip nada until the city pushed him to do it. That's just plain old speculation. Speculators, opportunists, dare I say historic carpetbaggers, see a chance to make a buck in our community at our expense. These zoning changes will allow our local investors and entrepreneurs to change the avenue to something that is sustainable and take us into the next 100 years. Look at what has been done in Bisbee, Globe, Jerome, Prescott. They didn't have nearly what we have here to be able to work with. The code change will make it more inviting for startups to develop their vision. I'm thinking maybe we get Small Business Administration down here to do some workshops on how to start a business and include information on this zoning issue. I'm in favor of the zoning issue. We need to get the butts in the seats. These changes will promote growth and business and new business specifically. And I thank you for your time and your attention.
Next one is Hunter Mann.
Hi, good afternoon, early evening, members of the council, city staff, and public. My name is Hunter Mann. I reside at 450 East 8th Street. I am on the board of directors for Art Car World. It's right across the street. If you haven't been there, it's pretty impressive what we've done so far. I'm here to represent Jared Blank, who is the founder of Art Car World. He's out of town right now. I just wanted to encourage you to make these changes that will benefit not just present residents, but the future of Douglas and help put it on the map. It wasn't intentional, but I've lived in a lot of historic districts in Guadalajara, Puerto Vallarta, Mexico City, Seattle, and Sausalito, California. And I've seen the great changes and opportunities that happen when they have mixed use of spaces. So shops or cafes downstairs and apartments or hotels upstairs. And how it gives birth to people using the street more for street festivals, the nearby parks, increased use. And I just wanted to say that I think you have a great wealth ahead of you by making these changes. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mann. Tanya Duarte.
Thank you. My name is Tanya Duarte. I'm at 2001 9th Street. I just want to say thank you all so much for looking at passing this. It's decades overdue, and I don't know how it was missed that this zoning was not conducive to business in Douglas. So I think it's really important that we're able to make these changes, promoting business. As most of you know, I've been working in Bisbee since last July, and just seeing all the different places that people can go, and they're all little tiny places run by locals, and it's really making Bisbee thrive. People from all over the world are coming there just to see different things. And one of the biggest things that they have there, and Bisbee residents hate it, but is a ton of Airbnbs, you know, or VRBOs or anything like that. But it's places that these people can stay and make themselves at home. And they're spending thousands of dollars every day shopping in the different shops and going to see different museums and all that. We can extend the highway, and that's been a long time discussion, bringing people from Bisbee to Douglas. And I spend every day that I'm at work telling people, go to Douglas, go to Portal, go out to the Chiricahua National Monument, you know, sending people this way. And by making these changes, we can bring people this way and make them want to stay here. So I think it's really important that we do this, and thank you all very much for seeing that it's done.
Juan Pablo Bautista.
Good afternoon. My name is Pablo Bautista. Nice to meet you all. We own a lot on 7th and Douglas Avenue, right in the corner. We're trying to open, you can say, well, basically it's a family business, a wholesale business, which we will go buy merchandise from other places like Tucson, wherever you want, and bring it back to Douglas to the people for restaurants or cleaning supplies, everything that people need, you know? Like, cause a lot of people, like, they need something and they're like, oh, let's go to Tucson or buy it over there and leave our money there, you know? So what we're trying to do here is leave our money in town. That's what we're trying to do. And I support the regulations. I'm trying to, what we're trying to do is basically help the people around our town, you know, like as a family, you know, because, hey, you know what, you need this, okay, what's the price you got? Okay, I got this price, okay, let me see if I can find it cheaper for you and have it for you in town. You know, that's what we're trying to do with all the small businesses and all that, you know, so this would be like great if you guys could approve this, it would be like, as many of the people have talked, we need money in town, not out of town. We need our money in town.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate all your comments. No further discussion, then we'll ask for roll call.
Thank you, Madam President. So we have a motion by Councilmember Lindemann, second by Councilmember Acosta. Councilmember Lindemann,
Yes.
Councilmember Acosta,
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton,
Yes.
Councilmember Valdenejo.
Yes.
Councilmember Grijalva.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Morales.
Yes, motion carries.
In honor of the Mayor and Council of the City of Douglas, Cochise County, Arizona, adopting the 2022 amendments to Article 5 of the zoning regulations by reference to amend Section 510.1, Section 510.2, Section 510.7, Section 510.8, and Section 513.1, renumber and amend Section 513.2, Section 513.3, and Section 513.4, and add Section 513.2, permitted uses in Section 513.3, property development standards of the City of Douglas zoning regulations, providing for severability and establishing an effective date thereof.
Thank you, Ms. Sandra. Next item, 17, resolution number 22-1490, a resolution of the mayor and council of the city of Douglas, Cochise County, Arizona, authorizing the city of Douglas to accept grant funding and enter into a sub-grantee agreement with the state of Arizona Department of Emergency and Military Affairs for a reimbursable grant fund allocation in the amount of $168,052 for equipment under the Border Security Grant Program. Chief, Warren here.
No, I'll take this. Good evening, Lieutenant David Rose, of the Police Department. The Arizona Department of Emergency and Military Affairs selected the Douglas Police Department to receive $160,052 in funding under the Border Security Fund Grant Program, border-related crimes, prosecution, and imprisonment. This funding will cover a 5-year lease program for body-worn cameras. The body-worn cameras program will allow us to equip each of our 34 sworn officers plus 2 spares to include associated hardware, software, licensing, evidence storage, and redaction, and also with replacement cameras and docking stations provided at year 3 and year 5.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve resolution number 22-1490? Mr. Valdenedo,
I move that the mayor and council approve resolution number 22-1490.
have a second?
Second.
Have a motion by Councilmember Valdenedo, a second by Councilmember Acosta. Any questions?
Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem. I have been asking for this for many years, and Chief Jones always said storage is the hangup. And I'm glad that we're finally going to get this. It's a great thing. Well, my question is, how long does this grant cover? Because eventually it will run out, and then we'll have to do something else to pay for the storage.
We've covered 5 years.
5 years. Okay, thank you.
I just want to thank you and your staff and our DPD and because, you know, these grants, they save us money, you know, we could allocate funds for it, but you go out of your way to help the city save money so we can use them hopefully for other programs that we need. So I want to thank you for putting our city and our constituents first.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. With a 5-year lease, I can't see why we couldn't plan for this expense in 5 years. I think with everything going on with just in the world and public safety, this is long overdue, and it's to protect our officers as well as the city. So this is a great start to something that I think a lot of the council members up here have already asked for. So thank you for bringing this up to us.
Yes, thank you very much.
Well,
Would you like to-
since last year we budgeted $150,000 for this body worn cameras, maybe we can save that for the next 5 years, and maybe draw some interest in it. So you can have more cameras. Thank you.
All right, so I have a motion by Councilmember Balvanero, a second by Councilmember Acosta. Roll call.
Councilmember Lindemann,
Yes.
Councilmember Acosta,
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton,
Yes,
Councilmember Balvanero,
Yes.
Councilmember Grijalva.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Morales.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Next item is discussion decision to call for and conduct an executive session under the authority of ARS 38-431.03, A3, and A7 to consider its position, instruct its representatives, and obtain legal advice regarding the potential sale or lease and the potential terms thereof relating to city-owned property on the southwest corner of 15th Street and Van Buren with parcel number 410-32.121. May I have a motion to enter into executive session?
Mayor Pro Tem, I make a motion that mayor and council will enter into executive session on the stated item.
May I have a second? I have a motion by Councilmember Acosta, a second by Councilmember Lindemann to enter into executive session. Any discussion? None, roll call.
Councilmember Lindemann.
Yes.
Councilmember Acosta,
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton,
yes.
Councilmember Balvanero,
Yes.
Councilmember Grijalva.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Morales.
Yes. Enter in 6:38 PM.
Do I stay on the line?
Councilmember Shelton, I think we have a different link for the executive session.
One of them.